Alright guys, day 7. Let me get into what this book says. I thought I lost the book. Okay, so pages, this next 3 pages, page 22, 23, 24. So, yes, motorcycle, yes. Just keep going. Okay, goodness. So she starts opening this idea of 4 foundations to kind of weigh, called a relationship with ourselves, a relationship with the universe, understanding distraction, and implementing design. And so being able to kind of juggle these 4 things to be able to have a good foundation to be able to rely on. So at this point, she has not yet broken down those different ideas because it's only 3 pages and I didn't read the rest yet. But it does focus on, relationships. She does mention that at some point it's like, how did I get on this page? Alright, some people might want to feel better, have a better mood, have a better relationship with their partner, or some significant other, or learning about making money, or she mentions that, it's not about superficial happiness, but she says this is about how to build a foundation to support all of those things. And so that's kind of where this conversation kind of ends. But I'm not sure if this is the same thing, but it just is something that just suddenly came to my mind. I'm wondering how a foundation, like a foundation that's got depth to the building aspect of it, if foundation and like in CBT when we study core beliefs in psychology, using that model, I'm wondering if these different aspects of balance for a foundation I wonder how they're connected with core beliefs, because I'm thinking they're not the same thing as core beliefs. Like, you wouldn't go back, to your foundation of core beliefs to, kind of regroup, to kind of ground yourself. Usually core beliefs, at least in psychology, it's usually negative core beliefs that get challenged. So pretty much, I think most people know about core beliefs, but for people who don't, basically in the CBT model, a lot of times we're looking at a situation, maybe a stressful or a distressing related situation, the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that come from that. So say, for example, if I hate motorcycles because maybe once as a kid I watched some weird music video where something occurred involving motorcycles, and from that point on, I don't like them. I have an aversion towards them. I don't like to watch movies about them. I don't like to see bikers, riding around on the highways. I don't like to encounter motorcycles. I don't want to ride on one. I don't know, I'm just making up an example. That when I was starting this recording of this episode, there was a motorcycle at the stoplight on the highway near my house. And so I heard the motorcycle, kind of the engine, kind of loudness. So say if potentially that was a distressing, triggering situation where I went from starting to record a podcast to now I'm like back in these memories about my childhood and I can't even focus, and it throws me to a point where like now I just, I'm so exhausted from this situation that I just need a break. I can't record anymore. Those would be the things to kind of break down. Breaking down, okay, when you heard this motorcycle, what were the thoughts that were coming up? What were the emotions that you felt? What behaviorally were you doing? Did you cover your ears? Did you close the window? Did you turn up your music really loud to drown it out? Did you leave the area to somewhere that was where you weren't able to hear it as loudly? Like, what did you do? What are the the consequences? Like, what's the it goes from activating event, emotions, behavior, all those types of things, cognitions, and the consequence, what it led you to do, which is maybe, what something leads you to do can sometimes be the behavior that's interfering with your life. Like if you live in a major city where there's a lot of motorcycles, like in LA, the weather is usually decent, so a lot of people have motorcycles. They like that they can cut through traffic on their motorcycles, or whatever reason why they like motorcycles. It's not uncommon for people to have motorcycles, and even in the winter people have motorcycles. It's not a big deal. But if it's affecting my driving, if it's affecting my recording, if it's affecting my peace of mind, that it interferes with my life significantly to a point that whenever I hear or see a motorcycle, I'm kind of spiraling and can't really like regroup easily. It's just like a simple example of how someone could use like CBT and therapy to kind of help them. Like, this isn't like professional advice or anything, but just a very simplistic example of kind of how in therapeutic environments we would use it in the past. In the clinic where I used to do therapy, and like as working there, doing therapy there with clients of my own, you usually take that kind of background and you look at it and you would say, okay, what are, you eventually get down to like, what are your general beliefs about something? There's usually this kind of like predicting what's going to happen in the future, or like if I get too close to a motorcycle, I could get injured and hurt permanently, and that's what's the most fearful for me. But then even digging deeper with that, like about injury and death, and developing some kind of harmful or debilitating kind of condition, or say you lose a limb or something like that, or lose like a sense and you can't function the way you did because of that, you know, of the potential for danger with motorcycles, and, you know, kind of more like the core beliefs that would be kind of the therapist would dive into more would be like the dread, the sense of fear. I mean, a lot of fears and anxiety and distress and discomfort are based in reality, right? A therapist couldn't 110% tell their patient, don't worry about motorcycles, they're completely harmless, right? We're not talking about like a completely irrational fear of something that could never ever harm you. And living in the city, even if a crosswalk is in your favor and you're being careful, you could never say that you're never going to get run over by a motorcycle, even if the light is red for them. You know, it's like people do weird stuff. And so, you know, trying to figure out, you know, a person's, or helping a person rather, to figure out kind of like more about their fear, not just like this fear comes up, I do this thing that interferes with my work, or this motorcycle makes these noise. I live next to a highway where there's motorcycles that come all the time. They make these loud sounds, and every time I hear a motorcycle come by, it just throws me off to a point where I can't do my work anymore, or it throws me off to a point where I start dreading going outside for that day, or I can't go to work. I can't get to work on time because I'm avoiding routes where I see motorcycles in the distance, and I'm taking these alternate turns and taking freeway exits that aren't along the right route, and I'm late for everything because of that. Like, there's something that might be like getting negatively impacted by continuing this pattern of avoidance and continuing this pattern of, you know, like the fear, the weight that it has, and the amount of stuff that I can't get done or that I can't complete because of my discomfort with even hearing motorcycles, let alone like seeing them, being around them, and in an environment where I can't really avoid motorcycles like that. Like, you know, I can't predict when they're going to come around. Sundays, it's Sunday right now. Sundays are a big motorcycle day in cities. It's not uncommon. So, you know, for like bike crews and stuff to get together and like, you know, drive all over town and stuff, like that's what they do. On the weekends, usually you see them kind of more. But yeah, like you start thinking, you know, about things like that have like depth to them, that, you know, isn't really fully resolved, you know, and trying to get to a place of resolving that issue, you know, working on the fears, working on the anxiety, working on the, you know, there's core beliefs under that stuff, you know, like when you start working on the fears and the anxiety and all those things, you might find out that, you know, a person has maybe, you know, a core belief that, you know, they can't really, trust, is maybe like a trust issue. Like, I can't really trust that the other drivers of motorcycles are going to be, you know, diligent and cautious enough in their driving that they're not going to have some reckless moment and it's going to impact my life negatively. Therefore, I'm avoiding all motorcycles at all cost. Is like, if that's the core belief, that I don't trust them, or if there's a different core belief that's like, you know, I don't know, like that seems like a more likely core belief. You know, you can work on trust, exposing oneself to environments where you can develop a level of trust and understanding, and like maybe taking a class about like just vehicles in general, just like watching a couple of YouTube tutorials about how engines work, and then specifically how motorized bicycles work, and then specifically, I mean, this is more of like it's kind of like a graduated exposure type of thing. It's more so for like phobias and fears and things, but I don't know. I don't want to get into like a whole model of things, but I'm just kind of thinking about core beliefs, because it's like those tend to be at the foundation of a lot of things too. Like if I have a foundational belief, a core belief regarding this fear and distrust of motorcycle drivers, or whatever it may be, that's going to impact my work. It's going to impact my productivity. It's going to impact my timeliness, all those types of things. It's going to impact my leisure time, even if I'm trying to meet up with friends and I'm late everywhere because of the motorcycles. Like even if I'm in an Uber, if I can't tolerate that, it's like, I mean, this is like a weird, exaggerated example without any background or anything. So usually in psychology, people don't work like this. It's not like I have a problem, they come in just like with no background information, no demographic details, just like fix the problem. Like that's not usually how things go. Like there's a lot of other moving parts. But if I'm just doing this to try to simplify it, and it's even complex, even in a simple version of like how, I'm just feeling like a core belief can be a part of a foundation, I think, that might be like not the functional foundation. I think Lily Singh is talking more about a functional foundation, but I think a lot of times what happens is people have other foundations that might be a little shaky, and they're the foundations that get in the way. It's like we have this other stuff that gets in the way, but it is deeply seated, it's deeply rooted, and it's hard because it gets in the way. So I don't really know. I don't really know, like, foundation wise, if that's going to be an important point. When we talk about foundations, so like, I'm just trying to think if it's the same thing, because that's what I don't really know. Like, I don't think it's the same thing as what Lily Singh is talking about. Obviously, she's talking about, like, a foundation that's, supposed to be supportive for being your most functional version of yourself. But I'm thinking one way to kind of determine what might be lacking at times, to at least figure out for a person, for their own self, like what they actually need. I feel like usually a person can figure out what they need by pretty much noticing the areas of stress in their life. Like if I'm stressed all the time with a certain relationship with a person in my life, or stressed all the time about checking my bank account, or stressed all the time about like, what, if a boss might be, if the email that they're sending me this time is like, they're going to call me into the office because of something or another. And it's like, I think just generally paying attention to the discomfort kind of shows us areas where we're worried, and it can potentially point out areas where we need to kind of build up those areas. But not always. Sometimes there's just a lot of anxiety about things that might not be accurate. And also just kind of being able to kind of read things early can kind of help, because if I can tell, maybe one night, like, ooh, I'm a little groggy the next day because I didn't sleep too good the night before, and then just kind of get on with my day, push through, and you know, ideally it would be wise to maybe not wake up in the same state multiple days in a row. If you're trying to have an overall, rested, productive, week, for a lot of people, they definitely need sleep. I'm one of those people. I don't really do well without as much sleep, and I've definitely struggled with insomnia for quite a few years. So, I've definitely figured out things that work, but definitely trying to slow down the pace of my life to kind of improve my stress levels, and have more energy to put towards my health. I mean, things like that. Like, I knew what was I've been able to tell for a while what I've been lacking because of how I feel sometimes, and how I'm kind of like just kind of like where certain kinds of worry or anxiety comes from. A lot of times it's based in like, oh, like maybe I'm worried about snowboarding because I haven't been hitting the gym lately or being active, or maybe I'm worried about some other thing, because I haven't been paying attention to that, or whatever it may be. Sometimes it makes sense to worry because, at least for me, when I've been kind of lacking in a certain area, I know to worry about it, or I know to consider that it might cause maybe some stress or problems in some other areas of my life. Like, everything's kind of combined, right? Like, if I go through a whole day without drinking water, or if I go through a whole day without eating or something, like, I'm not saying I do those things, but if I were to go through a whole day without doing something important like that, it wouldn't make sense for me to wonder, like, why am I thirsty? I haven't been drinking any water, and I decided not to drink water today. Why am I thirsty? It's like, because you didn't do something that you actually need to do. Like, there's some stuff you can't replace, or, try to compensate for with any kind of pill or any kind of thing. It's like you have to naturally do that thing. Like, you have to eat, you have to sleep. You can't just, like, not do it. But yeah, like, I think there really is a lot to kind of try to consider with certain stuff. And foundation wise, trying to find a foundation. We're going to be continuing to read through the pages that talk about that. I'm really no authority on all this kind of stuff, but I like these kind of books. I know it's not broken up into like 3 pages of days, but I have no problem going through something this slow. Like, I got all the time in the world. 3 pages isn't that much either, and it's such a short book. We're gonna get through the whole book easily, and sometimes it is more so about like baby steps with things versus like, let's just read. I mean, I could have easily read that book in like one day. Like, it's not a thick book at all. Like, it doesn't need to be thick. It's straight to the point. It's pretty simple. I like where it's going though. But I've been finding these kind of books helpful for just getting my thoughts kind of at least get the gears turning on certain things instead of just like not thinking about anything at all or completely avoiding things. Because I'm definitely having some trouble with gauging, my levels of readiness for certain steps I need to take for things. I'm kind of having a hard time gauging, am I not ready and just need a break still, or am I like kind of freaking out and like hesitating to move forward because of any anxiety? Like, I can't say there's not any anxiety and that I'm not having any confidence issues, but I would say overall, I don't know. I don't think I'm really in denial about it to myself, but I do feel like I'm moving slower than I thought I would, but also I have not had a break in a really long time, and I don't think it would be wise to just like push, considering kind of like that I have an opportunity to kind of like get my health in good shape and everything. Like, it's not like in terrible shape, but it's not in great shape. Like, I'm not like having to go into like doctors or anything, but I could tell that if I were to continue to push, I'd probably like develop hypertension or something. Like, my insomnia is definitely, it was definitely getting worse at a certain point, and that was definitely impacting me a lot in a lot of different ways. It was just from stress levels, and it was just really messing with my energy. So even having energy to work out was kind of hard to come by, because I was just like in this energy battle for like a pretty long time, but I was not really trying to stay in that type of situation for too long. So I am kind of coming out of it, but just kind of more newly as I'm like slowly working on things, and it's probably gonna take a few months, honestly, and that's fine. In my head, I'm like, oh, it should take like 2 weeks, I'll be fine. But like I'm still I'm kind of like relearning about my stress levels again, and kind of reevaluating like how much is it worth to me to be like overstressed and overwhelmed. Like, I do need a level of urgency, like, to get things done, and I do have some level of urgency because I have some pressing trips and different stuff coming up during this year where it's like, okay, I need to actually have like a solid thing going for myself by these certain time periods. But yeah, so by summer I've got to really kind of have things kicked into gear in the way that I need them to be, but yeah, I still have some time, so I'm not really trying to rush because I'm really not too ready yet, but I'm getting there. I think it's wise to take a break because I can afford to, and that's definitely a luxury. Like, I know a lot of people are burning out and can't afford to really not work. And I'm not going to say that I'm not working. I'm not really paying attention to how much I'm getting paid, if that makes sense. I've definitely got, like, I've explained my routine on here multiple times. Like, I've got a routine. Like, I'm not like super strict. Like, if I need a day, I'll take a day, but I kind of do a lot. But I do actually do a lot of resting. I'm kind of doing more of like an early day schedule, which works best for me, either till noon or till like maybe 2 or 3 p.m. I'm kind of best off in the afternoons, or to say in the mornings. And then because I'm up so early anyways, you know, I can start doing things around 6 or 7, because I'm not stuck like at a 9 to 5, somebody telling me, no, you gotta work 9 to 5, or no, you gotta work 8 to 4. It's like, I'd rather do 7 to 3, or like 6:30 to 2:30 or something like that. Like, to me, it's like, it just makes the days feel longer. Because if you start work at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, it's hard to really kind of fit in a lot of stuff. But I don't know, I was listening to a lot of stuff today that got me really interested in some stuff I'm about to write. I'm gonna do some writing tonight, and maybe get in some yoga. But yeah, do some writing. Maybe first, and then maybe get in some yoga, and then it'll be late, and I'll call it a night. But that's it for now, and thanks for listening.